this morning. I just don't
Last
They're so hard to get started. Once you get them started, you
Yeah.
want to keep them coming.
Yeah.
I learned
It happened like Christmas. That was the last time I can remember, really.
Think about it, talk about it.
Fourth and fifth step is the topic today. The steps I call the freedom steps, because once you start casting the light into those dark corners of shame and guilt and fear, freedom is exactly what happens. Over the years, I think I've probably heard thousands of fifth steps. And what I'm going to share with our people today are some of the steps and some of the points of doing the best possible fourth and fifth step that can be done, so that we can experience that freedom and get on and make our life as best as it possibly can be. Fourth and fifth step coming up. Hello, hello, hello. How's it going? Glad to all see you here. We're going to talk about fourth and fifth step this afternoon because it's such an important part of the ongoing process of recovery. But before we actually get into that, let me share something with you who are in treatment. And we tend to think you get in treatment and it's ugly and terrible things have brought us here and we're such hurting, broken people. But let me tell you this. Some of the greatest beauty that you're ever going to find in the world starts here. Some of the real stuff, the life of life, is what you're dealing with here and continues when you get out. And I'll tell you why I'm telling you this now. I just got off the phone with a fellow that's one of our alumni, and he shared with me an account that just gave me goosebumps. 9 years ago, this fellow came through treatment. Came in on December 23rd. And he said, when I came into treatment, the counselor told me, every day you're sober is going to be like a new Christmas. You can have Christmas every single day. And he said, for 9 years, I have not taken my Christmas tree down. He's got it sitting right in the window of his house, little old scrawny thing. He said there's only 3 or 4 bulbs on it, plug it in every day. People who come by look up there and they must think I'm nuts. But he said it's a celebration to me and to everybody who understands that. What sobriety is, what ongoing recovery is. He used to be a street person. 13 years he lived on the street, living in boxes, living in gutters. Touched by the grace of God, and that's why, again, we did our session on spirituality, turned things around. Now, not only is he sober, he's got this beautiful sacrament, if you will, this symbol, this little blinking Christmas tree. 9 straight years, he never took it down. If it was made out of 14-karat gold, it couldn't be more beautiful. The life of life is what's happening here. So if any of you tend to get depressed and to see yourself as somehow weak, ugly, broken because you're in treatment with this disease of alcoholism, God, let me tell you from my heart to your heart, the beauty that you're going to find here, the face of God you're going to find in recovery, what can happen to you when you get out, what you can make of your life, what you can be for other people, it's the top shelf of what human existence is about. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Which again is a big part of this fourth and fifth step. Why talk about a fourth and fifth step, all right? Again, for the 9 millionth time, and you'll hear it every single day, many times a day before you get out of here, the reason we're in treatment is to get well and to stay well. The first step of getting well and staying well is abstinence, it's sobriety, and uninterrupted sobriety. That has to happen. Since chemicals medicate pain, we must focus our program not only on abstinence from the chemical, we must focus it on the pain in our life. If we don't at some point, and again, first things first, and the first order of business here in treatment is sobriety and owning alcoholism and breaking through the delusion and denial. But at some point we need to really begin to look at that pain in our life, the guilt, the shame, the fear, the worry, the broken relationships, all that. Or the more it hurts, the more we're going to tend to want to get back into our chemical. Why we're talking about fourth and fifth step. Now in the spirituality session, we talked about step 1, 2, and 3. Why 4 and 5? Is because whatever is stuffed and hidden inside in the dark grows. The more dark corners we have that we do not cast a light on, the lion becomes the mouse. The fear and the worry that is not looked at and not addressed continues to grow like some god-awful mushroom hiding in a cave somewhere growing. The shame and the guilt over mistakes, which is, that's a polite word, mistakes. The downright horrible stuff that we may have done under the influence of chemicals, if it's not shared, if it's stuffed, if it's hidden, just grows out of all proportion. It becomes a poison weed that'll kill you. Step 4 is shining the light in the darkness. Step 5 is opening the door and going through the door. Just a basic principle is a joy that is not shared, cut in half. A sorrow that is not shared, doubles. The more we hide the guilt, the shame, the fear, the pain of the past, the more powerful it becomes. That's why the wisdom of the fathers who put together this program, that's why there is a step 4 and a 5. It says, get it out. It says, open the door, let the light in, let somebody else share in there. Now, just a couple comments about step 4 and 5. And over the last 20 plus years, I guess I've heard, 3, 4, 8,000 fifth steps. I don't know how many, but tons. But a couple of comments that I have learned that has been helpful. Many of us in recovery will do more than 1 4th and 5th step. Now, a lot of you may say, who the hell cares? I'm worried about the first one. I ain't looking at 3 and 4. The point is because many of us experience a wonderful relief and release in this 1st, 4th, and 5th step. And of course, the reason is because maybe for the last 10, 20, 30 years, we've been stuffing all this hurt. We've been hiding, don't want to look at the kind of stuff that we've done, abused the kids, screamed and hollered, stole money, been irresponsible. Who wants to look at it? But the more it's hidden, the more it's stuffed, the less we're going to be able to deal with it. All right, so the first one, oftentimes there really is a sense of relief and euphoria that comes with that. What I'm saying is, keep in your minds that down the road there may really be a point for more 4th and 5th steps. The purpose may be different. Oftentimes this 1st, 4th, and 5th step is relief, release, revelation. The 2nd, 4th, and 5th step may be much more about clarification. I'm not in the same kind of pain. I don't have the same kinds of needs. What I really need to do this 4th and 5th step is understanding more about the ism of alcoholism. And the ism being the living patterns, the guilt, the shame, the lying, the crooked talk. So I need to understand more. That's proper for a 4th and 5th step. Now, another point I just really want to share with you because I think it's important. If you don't have some great, wonderful revelation at this 4th and 5th step, it doesn't mean you messed it up. It doesn't mean you've done it bad. Think of a snowball that has some wonderful little core at the middle of it. You may want to get to this core, this experience of relief. It may take you 2 or 3 times to shave off enough layers of that snowball to get to that core. The first 2 or 3 times of shaving off layers is not a bad 4th and 5th step. It's what it takes to get there. So if you do the best you can, and that's all your program asks you, you're as honest as you can with this 4th and 5th step, you've done it right. And don't get paranoid about, have I done it right? Am I doing it right? If you're doing the best you can, by God, it's right. It's as good as it can be. And some other time, maybe some wonderful thing is going to happen, but you do the best you can. Okay, let's take a couple of the basic words that we have in the 4th and 5th step, and I'll just share with you a little bit about these. The 4th step says that we made a searching and fearless. Now, we're going to talk in just a minute about what some of the obstacles to this searching and fearless. Searching and fearless moral inventory. Searching and fearless means that to the best of your ability, you don't leave dark corners. To the best of your ability, you face every dark corner that you have. Searching and fearless means that you don't run away from that 1 or 2 things that, God, I just don't want to look at. I mean, I know I have to share with somebody before I get out of here, because they ain't going to let me out of here if I don't do a fourth and fifth step. So here's the safe things. I'll tell them about wrecking the car, and I'll tell them about drunk driving. But I just can't tell them about the affair. I just can't tell anybody that I smacked my kid or that I left him alone while I went out to drink. Searching and fearless means that we don't hide anything. Searching and fearless. Moral inventory means, moral means there's right and there's wrong. Moral means that we don't do the delusion and denial, alibying, tap dancing around. If it's wrong, we did it, own it. That's what moral means. It's not psychological mind games about diminished capacity. It means that there's right and wrong, there's good and bad, and under the influence of this disease, I chose wrong and bad. And I've done wrong and bad. Now again, you might tend to think, geez, I don't want to do that. It makes me feel all the worse. Sharing it frees it up. Then you don't have to carry it around like some sick thing inside you that's eating you up the rest of your life. Sharing it is how you get rid of it. So searching and fearless moral inventory. The fifth step says that we shared. That means that we did it. What I'm saying by shared is fourth steps need to be written, and then we verbalize it. You don't do a fourth and fifth step thinking about it in your own room, admitting it to yourself and saying, I did my fourth and fifth step. That's not a fourth and fifth step. Sharing it means that we wrote it down and we actually shared it. With whom? The fifth step says we shared with God, with ourselves, and with another human being. All three of those are important. You don't just do it by yourself. You don't just sit by yourself and say, God, listen, here's my fifth step. It's God, myself, and someone else. And as we'll see in a minute, see, that's the hard part. There's lots of us that can sit in our own room and mentally maybe accept some things, but getting it out and sharing it with somebody, that's what's hard, but see, that's also where the payoff comes from. That's also where the reward is. And you bet it's hard, but that's where freedom comes from. So the fifth step says we shared this searching, fearless moral inventory. We shared it with God, ourselves, and another human being, that what we shared was the exact nature of our wrongs. Now, what I mean by nature is, fifth step doesn't just say that we make a list of the behaviors and the actions that we did that weren't very healthy. It says as much as we can, and you take this step by step, what's the nature of it? It's not just maybe that I went out and had an affair. The exact nature may be what we get to is, you know, the reason I had that affair was certainly not because I cared about this other person. The nature of that wrong was I am so afraid of intimacy, and I am so terrified that somebody may really care about me when I don't think it's possible, that every time I get in a decent relationship, I have to find a way to wreck it. That's why I have the affair. See, that's a whole different ballgame than just saying I had an affair. What's the nature of it? You may say, I stole. That's the behavior. What's the nature of that? And you start thinking about that. Maybe the nature of the wrong is that I have an enormous amount of insecurity, and the way I try to feel secure is to have things that I guess I have grown to come to believe that security is based on how many things I have, and therefore I have to have more and more money. Well, see, insecurity is the nature of the behaviors. You went out and stole, or you embezzled some money, or whatever it is. So we shared the exact nature of our wrongs as much as we can. Now, nobody's perfect. You don't have to do it all at once. Program never asks you to do what is impossible for you. If it's too hard right now, cut it in half and take half a step. If that half step is too hard, cut it in half and take a quarter step. Take baby steps. We baby step into recovery. But this fourth and fifth says that we admit, that we acknowledge, that we own, that we share to the best of our ability the nature of what the wrongs are. All right, now, here's the exercise that we are going to do. The way I'm going to suggest that we do this fourth and fifth step that includes some of this. Lots of fourth step inventories are just exercises in what's wrong with you. And there's a lot of people that get really depressed in doing that fourth step because they're just making less of their sins. What I'm going to suggest to you and how we're going to work with it is a fourth and a fifth step is the same thing as taking a journey. Every journey has 3 steps. Where you are, where you want to go, and how are you going to get there. You know, if you went up to the airline counter and you said to the lady, I want to buy a ticket. She said, where to? So I don't know. Just a ticket. Well, she said, well, where do you want a ticket to? Well, who knows? You can't get a ticket to who knows. Where do you want to go? And the same thing, if you called up and said, I want a ticket to Spokane, they said, all right, where are you? Well, I don't know where I am. You can't get a ticket if you don't know where you are. So fourth and fifth step in the context of recovery, as much as we can, where are you? Where do you want to get to? And how are you going to get there? So for example, where are you? We do our regular 4-step inventory, and maybe you really come to believe, all right, I am impatient. I am prejudiced. I am insecure. I tend to place all my emphasis on money or things or how I look. That's where you are. Now again, you can't heal that if you don't get in touch with it. But see, the next step is, where do you want to get to? All right, so I may be a really insecure person who tends to always give up my rights for the sake of approval from somebody else. I laugh at jokes that aren't funny. I agree to stuff I hate, but I'm terrified to say no or this is me. All right, where do you want to get to? See, and to understand, all right, that's where I am, but where I want to get to is a person who has a sense of self. I'm growing to become a person who really likes who they are. I'm going to grow to become a person who has enough integrity to say, be whoever you want and God bless you, but it's not who I am. And this is not the kind of stuff that I do. Somebody who can say, well, whatever it takes. Here's where you are. Where do you want to get to? And the third part of that, as much as you can, and this may not be the most appropriate thing right now, especially if you're just starting treatment, but how are you going to do it? See, to know here's where I am and here's where I want to get to still doesn't answer how are you going to do it. And that again is why we did our whole session and work hard on things like relapse. What is your program? Is there specific behaviors? Do you have accountability when you get out here? Does a group hold you accountable? How are you going to get from A to B? So when we work our fourth and fifth step and you come in to share that, it's not just a long list of sins that we're going to punish you with. What I'm going to ask you and say to you is, okay, that's where you are. Where do you want to go? Right, you slapped your kids. You left your kids and went out and drank, so you're a terrible parent. All right, what kind of a parent do you want to become? Who do you want to grow to be? I'm going to ask you that. And I'm going to say, now how are you going to get there? What kind of program is it going to take to get from A to B? Now, as much sense as that may make, and as much as we can say, all right, I want to learn to care about me, I want to learn to like me, what are the obstacles to making a good fourth and fifth step? Why is it hard? Even if mentally we understand that what lives in the dark grows in the dark, and I don't want to live in the dark anymore, even if we understand that, when you sit in your room and you take pencil in hand and you're going to start writing out that fourth step, and you start thinking about, I need to share this with somebody, searching and fearless, how you feel? Do you start making lists about what's safe to share and what's not safe to share? And I'll share this with somebody, but by God, I'll never share this with anybody else. See, do we start, what's the problem? Now, what I want to suggest to you the problem is, again, the idea is if we're aware of it, we have power to overcome it. Doing a good fourth and fifth step, just like we said in the spirituality workshop that we did, takes skills. It takes the freedom and the ability to own that we have done wrong. It takes the skill and the ability to be able to share that I have done wrong and share that with somebody else. It takes the freedom and the ability to be able to trust that someone will not betray and hurt you, and to believe in an ongoing basis that you can trust people. Now, here's my question. What has been your experience, and therefore the expectation, because all of our expectations are built on experience, of owning that you did wrong? What has been your experience of trusting other people with really scary, hurtful stuff? What has been your experience of allowing yourself to really be vulnerable to other people? What's happened to you in the past? See, and what we're going to talk about here, getting ready for group, if your basic experience all of your life has been, I learned never admit that you've done wrong. If you admit that you've even done anything wrong, the punishment is going to be so terrible that you can hardly stand it. So never admit that you've done wrong. Don't trust other people. You can't count on anybody ever being there for you. If that's the experience that we have had, when it comes time to do that fourth and fifth step, that's all we have to draw on. So of course it's going to be difficult. Now we're going to share on that in just a minute, but the last point I want to make before we actually do a little sharing here is, if it turns out that by and large your whole experience in trusting, admitting sins, faults, wrongs, believing other people to be there has been nil, has been horrible, then start to build right now new experiences. If it hasn't been part of your life, too bad. But there's people here you can trust. There's people sitting right here in your group going through treatment that won't lie. And they won't run to a telephone and call somebody and say, do you know what Sandy did? They aren't going to do that. They're going to respect you. They're going to listen to you. Not perfect, because nobody is perfect, but they're going to care about you. And they'll come up to you tonight when we're sitting in a common room having coffee, and they'll sit down and they'll look in your face and say, geez, Dick, that was really wonderful sharing today. That really helped me. So if you didn't have these experiences before, now's the time to start building them. Don't dismiss the beauty that's happening here. Use it. It's use it to understand what trust can be, and that all people don't lie and hurt. Now's the time to start building that. So now, in terms of, again, the skills for the fourth and fifth step really rest on the experience and the expectations we had of owning wrongs and sharing and trusting. Ron, let me ask you, what has been your experience? Well, first of all, let me ask you, when you start thinking about doing a searching, fearless moral inventory, then sharing it with another person, how does that feel?
Scary.
What does scary mean? How does it feel? That's a nice word. What's it feel
Well,
like? What do you want to do?
I feel the same old fear coming over me as I felt in the family when I was growing up. I always wanted to be honest and to tell the truth. But my family, it was like I couldn't do that, because all I heard from my mother and dad is the neighbors are wrong, my boss is nuts, he doesn't know how to do it, all he does is mess up all the time. Every time I had a feeling or something, you shouldn't feel that way. What am I supposed to do?
Did you ever do anything wrong? I mean, really screw up, steal a car, did you ever really screw up?
No, I was a good kid.
You were good. Why didn't you?
I tried so hard to be right all the time, but I was never right.
Never right.
So how do you trust anybody?
Yeah. So now when it comes time maybe to share with another human being, emotionally, mentally, where are you flipped back to?
Childhood. That old
And it's
emotion
gonna be hard.
right in my gut.
That's
I
right.
can feel it right
That's
now.
right. See, and it's going to be hard. But what I'm telling you, Ron, the beauty that's going to come in your life, you're going to find that there's people you can trust that aren't going to hurt you, that will accept you for who you are. You got a beautiful experience waiting for you. Dick, what were you going to say?
My attorney told me not to divulge information that'll get me in more trouble than I'm already in. So are you telling me that this is okay, or are the police going to be waiting for me when I get out of here?
What you're going to find, again, is, and I'm going to ask you another question on that nobody's going to betray you in here. Nobody is going to take what you say, then run and punish you with what you tell them. But let me ask you a question even before that. All right, so you're in here because of some recent problem. Your lawyer said don't share that with anybody else. How about going back before that? What have you learned? What has been your life experience about it's safe to share, not surface stuff, but it's safe to put into somebody else's hand a personal secret that could cream me if it got out? What have you learned about that? What's been your experience of that?
Don't do it no matter what.
Why? What happens if you do? What have you learned?
because vulnerability, where I come from, is a weakness, and it's going to be used against you no matter what.
How? How might it be used against you, Dick?
And my family.
Yeah, but how does your family use it? What do? They make fun of you? They laugh at you? They go out and tell somebody else? What happens when you do that?
Can't even bring a girlfriend home. They'll hit on her.
They'll hit on her?
Sure.
Sexually, they'll make advances to your
Sure.
girlfriend?
My house isn't a safe place.
Yeah.
And I'm of the opinion when I came in here, there isn't a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
There's a safe place, it's right here. And like you say, I want to take a fifth step, and I want to do what they're asking me to do, but I am not so sure that's what I should do. And that's why I'm asking the question, I guess, that I asked.
Now, you're new in treatment.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to share with you, Dick, again, is nobody asks you in program to do what's impossible for you. If you can't do it now, take a half step. So what I'm going to suggest to you is, in this group process, as you listen, as Gordy proves himself day after day to be trustworthy, Willard proves himself, Janet proves herself that she cares, inch by inch, Dick, build on that. Let that count. And just keep open. For right now, all you have to do is to keep open the possibility that maybe before I get out of here, weeks down the road, before I get out of here, maybe I will come to believe that it's worth taking the risk to really share with somebody. You know, don't project, but I'm just saying keep open to the possibility that the group, treatment, the process is going to teach you brand new truths.
I've gotten that far so far in my treatment. I trust the people I'm here with.
Well, is Gordy going to lie to you?
No.
You know, is he going to
And
take
it's not
what you
going to
say?
go anywhere else because he's in the same boat I'm in.
And that's what you can learn. And then you can start to build on that to build a whole new life.
Who do I do my fifth step with, though?
Well, we'll put up a list, and you have a choice about that. And some of the people are going to have done fifth steps, you know, with people. Talk to them. You'll have some choices. But whoever's on that list, and again, this is a new truth. And you can't jump into a new truth till you experience it. They're all trustworthy. Now, you can't believe me because I say it, but you're going to come to believe in yourself that there are people that don't hit on the girlfriends that family members bring home. I'm happy for you. You're going to find that out. Jerry, did you ever hear?
In my experience, if I share with someone close to me, mainly a female, that this will be used against me later in an argument. There's never any forgiveness. There's never an end to it. They let you off for 2 years for manslaughter. The females in my life never let me off.
So you learned basically don't trust.
Don't trust.
Okay, so you're the same kind of boat that Dick's in.
Right.
So when I'm up here talking about a fourth and fifth step, and you start thinking of writing, searching and fearless, and sharing, how do you feel?
Scared. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I
See,
don't want to do it.
yeah, and I really, again, we'll take her a step at a time, Jerry, but I think such a beautiful thing to understand. Treatment is a time of miracles. It's a time of miracles. This may be the most grace-filled church you're ever going to be part of. And don't preclude the possibility that you are going to come to believe that all people don't punish, that all people don't use what you say to get back at you later on. It's just like with Dick. Boy, there is such a beautiful, beautiful truth waiting for you. And I know, you say, yeah, but it'll come. Use this a group experience. Use this group experience. Sandy, she lied to you? She hurt you in group? No. You know, has Willard hurt you in group? Have you shared anything in group that before could have been really risky?
Yeah.
And have they come back? You know, did they get on the phone and call your wife, call your parents and say, do you know what that sucker Jerry did and you don't know about? You're going to, all right, take her a step at a time and you'll come to believe it's one of the most beautiful experiences you can have. We shared and we found freedom. Put the light in those dark corners and you chase the demons out of there. Now, in terms of some specific questions that we're going to deal with relative to this fourth step, what are some of your dark corners? When we get into group, we're going to talk about that as much as you can. What are the dark corners that up until now you have not wanted to put the light of consciousness on? That you're shamed, you're scared, you're hurt. I don't want to admit those things. I don't want to look at them. What are they? Another question we're going to look at is what is the purpose, as you see it, of a fourth and fifth step? How does that relate to the overall recovery process? Why is it important? We're going to talk about what are some of the obstacles to recovery, the obstacles to doing a fourth and fifth step. Because again, what I'm going to share with you, and Dick has shared well, and Jerry and Ron, that if we haven't had an experience of being able to trust people, that things we share are not going to be used against us, of course, we're filled with panic when we think about that. So what are some of the obstacles that happens relative to fourth and fifth step? You know, what kind of fourth and fifth steps can we do? So we'll share about all of that in groups. So these are some important things. But let me just leave you before we now get up and go in the next room and do some group, again, with this thought. And it's been so helpful to me. A joy not shared, cut in half. A sorrow, a worry, a fear not shared, it's doubled. Those things, Dick, Jerry, Ron, whatever, that we are hiding from, that we won't share, you damage yourself doubly. You damage you by not sharing those. The gift is to yourself. The freedom is to you. And step by step, we're going to get there to where we're able to own it, to understand it, to share it, and then to be free of it. Beautiful experience coming for you. So let's get up, stretch, move around. We'll go on to the next room and, let's start doing some of this work.